right, welcome everybody to the Sunday Show. Arsenal Fan Circle here. You are all welcome. Pull up a chair. You all get to air your views here on the Arsenal Fan Circle. And it's a little bit sad that this trip here is going to be the last one. The last time the Arsenal team wore this strip. I actually like the away strip, and they keep changing strips every year. So, well, we went out with a whimper yesterday against Nottm Forest. We handed the title to Manchester City. We didn't push them all the way, which is what I wanted to do. We did not finish the season with 5 wins after losing to City. Finish the season with 5 wins. I wanted that. We started the season with 5 wins. We didn't do that. And we've actually let positive gooners down here. The team has let those who have fought and in these podcasts and fought on Twitter and on social media fought for the team. The team went 90% the way the season, but failed. You got to say fail if you're going to take it on a title challenge. It's a failure. If you want to call it a bottle job, that's fine. Do that as well. As it basically the definition of bottle job is losing leads in consecutive seasons. We did that to Tottenham, but as Gary would say, there are levels to this, and we were fighting with Manchester City this season. We were fighting with Tottenham last season. So welcome, Gary.
Hello, Ray. Hello, Stan. Hello, panel. Hello, chat room. Yeah, no, my words. Everybody's using my words now. There's levels to this and all the other things that come along with it. But the one thing that DWTT stands for is don't waste a trip, and I believe we have wasted the trip a little bit with the way that we've finished the season off. It would have been nice to feel like we went 100%. I don't feel like we went 100%, like we gave our all in the way that we coached, the way that the players played on the pitch. And that's disappointing. It's disappointing the way this thing ended. So yeah, it's it is. I guess we'll get into everything, but yeah, just more disappointed. I hope we have learned from this. We've found different ways to kind of disappoint us as fans. The last, 3 or 4 years, we've always seemed to. There's always a loss that you can look at and go, "Ooh, man, hope we learn from that one." And I think we've gotten better players, but I'm not sure if we've learned. That's kind of your margins are smaller with better players, and I think we've done that, at least that. So we've gotten better there, but I think there's still some things that we could do that don't require us bringing in like the best players in the world to accomplish. I think we just players, mindset, coaching style, coaching decisions, and all of that, player management, and all of those things that we just have to get really good at. As somebody said, no matter what happens, no matter how many players we bring in, we are never going to be at the city level. So we're going to have to be better at all the other things that we can control, like how we manage our players and what our players' mindsets are going into it. So that's where I stand. As I always say, I'm our Arsenal in, and it sounds like a cop out, but it is. Because I'll if that means Arteta has to go, then he has to go. If that means Saka has to go, then he has to go for the betterment of the club. So I'm always club first. So a lot of people say they're club first, but then they will say they're Arteta in, or they're club first and they want Arteta out for reasons that they know aren't going to happen. So I kind of feel like so that's where I am with this thing. Yeah, the last 2 matches have shown a team, at least to me, that are done. We always talk about players and teams on the beach and stuff like that, and these players just are going out there and just getting a sweat in and just looking towards the next season. I feel like that's a waste. This is a waste of a way to end the season. You want to end it on a high. You want to end it and say, look, it wasn't that bad. There were things we could have done better, but we're going to show you guys that there is something still left in our hearts, in our tank. And we haven't done that. So disappointing.
Definitely disappointing. You mentioned the beaches. We are the Arsenal. We should never be on the beaches. Our team should be finishing the season out strong. Stan, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
you, you,
I know you have more
he's,
to
that's
say.
how he's going to be. I'm going to get a lot of words in this show.
No, I know.
I'm
I
waiting
know,
for
Stan.
the next question.
You didn't want to answer that one?
Well, you asked me how I am today. I'm fine today. Like, you know,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
back's a lot better.
Oh, that's good.
Listen, all of these things that we went on this trip, as Gary and stealing Gary's taglines here, went on this trip this season, and we really enjoyed it for into April. But we kind of slowed down in April with those 3 draws, and we're going to probably finish with a win against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and that'll be 3 wins, 3 draws, and 3 defeats in the final 9 games. And Tony will point, and other people here on the panel will point to the pattern similar to last season where we tailed away at the end as well. So I know we're gonna get funds. We're gonna go and target big players. We're gonna reform, retool, and go again. And with those said big players, we can do a lot more in terms of how good we're going to be. And let's not pour any fire on this season too much, because we get 84 points. We should really be getting 90. If we win on next Sunday, we get 84 points. It's a 15-point improvement upon last year. But really to say we haven't bottled this league, we would have had to hit about 90 points or the high 80s for me. So where do you come in on all that stuff, Stan?
Well, I did a post-game podcast with Danny and Carl near enough straight after the game. And 24 hours later, I kind of feel exactly the same as I did then. And the first question that I had was when I was watching that game was just why are we doing this? It just doesn't make any it doesn't make any sense to me. This is the first game that I've watched this season where I actually felt angry while I was watching it, and I haven't felt like that in a long time. I don't even think I maybe not have felt that maybe even last season. But yesterday I felt really angry, and I've been defending Mikel Arteta all season. And some of the things I've been defending him for, I agree, they've been quite flimsy. They've been quite near to the line, but I've wanted to try and maintain a positive outlook on this season. But after what I saw yesterday, I can't defend the indefensible, because Mikel Arteta brought all of that onto himself. Just the fact that everybody could see that what was going wrong in the first half, the fact that they went in at half time. What did he do at half time? He bollocked them, told them that they must try harder, and then sent them out to play exactly the same way. To me, that's just born out of stubbornness. You know, it's no shame to be like 25 minutes in and think, I've got to change this because it isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather he did that and people are questioning why he's making early substitutions, but it's because he's trying to fix it. So sending them back out for the second half to play in exactly the same manner. I mean, I don't know what could he have said to them at second in half time. Is he trying to prove to himself that what he was trying was going to work? Because everybody else could see that it wasn't working.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got players that have, you know, what did he train that system all week? Look at it and go, yeah, we can do this on Saturday. I mean, I don't understand. You've got 3 players playing at the back, but the one on the left is basically so wide away from his next guy because he's trying to cover at left back as well. And it's almost like he's been watching footage of other games and seeing Trent Alexander moving into the midfield and Caicedo playing at right back and think, oh, we've got to try that. Thomas Partey, you're up. It doesn't make any sense. He brought all of that on himself yesterday. And as much as I've enjoyed this season, it's a shame that, you know, that it's marred by the ending, because it's like in sales, right? You know, it doesn't matter how good of a salesperson that you are. Your manager will always tell you, mate, you're only as good as the last sale. It's all right, you walking around the office and reminding everybody about the Johnson deal that you brought in 6 months ago. But we've had nothing from you from that 6 months ago. What's going on?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like that, you know. I'm remembering the end of the season now, and it's spoiling it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm hugely disappointed with what I saw yesterday, and I'm sure that we'll talk about it in more detail, individual performances, what the manager must have been thinking. But there's no way that I can make any excuses and defend yesterday's performance.
Yeah, I mean, it's like putting vinegar in milk. You just make it sour. And these last couple of results against Brighton, and especially this game against Nottingham Forest, we knew Nottingham Forest would be struggling to and fighting tooth and nail to win their game to get away from relegation. And we didn't turn up. We didn't put a lineup together. And Gary, I take no pride in being correct about the left back and the right back when you were trying to analyze what Mikel Arteta was doing. You know, I was correct in saying it was Partey right back, it was Kivior left back, but I take no pride. I would rather have been wrong and have us win the game. You know what I mean? Take no pride in Kivior playing left back. We're asking Kivior to defend like Kieran Tierney, get up and down the byline like that. We've destroyed Kivior's day as well, his confidence. And we talk about Zinchenko and what we miss from him. We maybe have seen that in the last couple of weeks what we miss from Zinchenko. And Thomas Partey, he's very close to probably being sold this summer, in my opinion, because we're asking him to fill in a right back, to cover for Ben White, and he can't. He looked lost at right back, Gary.
Yeah, no, I mean, I as you brought up Arteta, and yes, I guess Arteta being his nephew and all, and that's why you knew that Partey would be playing a right back, probably for the first time for Arsenal in a game, not necessarily that we needed, but in a game that we needed to respond from previous performances.
He
and
played
do
about
that.
10 minutes. He played about 10 minutes in the Leeds game at right back.
No, but I mean, it's not something where you go, all right, I know I've seen him
Mhm.
do it before and he did well there, and that's where we want him. And prefer. We're okay to have him there. Like, I know Saka can play as a fullback. I've seen that for multiple games, and he's looked good there. I know that, but I don't know Partey can do that, and the way he's been playing. Is that how you change their mindset? You put them in a different position in that kind of situation where you're playing a team that needs it more. They need to win more than you do, but you need to win as well, just to show some pride, some resiliency in the way that things have gone, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you were right, but it was wrong what we saw.
Mhm.
It didn't make any sense. I don't know. Arteta, as you say, will take these risks at the worst times. Like, I know this isn't detrimental to the way the season ends, but it is as Stan said, it's a mindset now. Oh no, sorry, you just said about Kirior. He should have never even been on the team, in the sense that if you're going for a title and we don't need projects. I say that, we don't need a project at that point in the season. We actually needed like a Trossard and Jorginho, an established player who can come in there and you just tell them what to do and they go and do it, and they don't have to figure out how to play in the league. And some of the, he's got probably on 2 stains on his resume, ducking on in the sporting game, and now we've got kneeling in the what game was that?
Brighton.
In the Brighton game, right? So those don't look good, especially those. How different are those than the Renarson, handing the ball into the goal kind of thing against City in the cup game years ago, right? Similar things, just on a defensive and a center back kind of level there, but things
Mhm.
that you don't expect your center backs to do, right? Like you don't want them. Like if I ducked in that sporting game and then Turner didn't get the ball, as a center back, I'll be screaming at him, regardless of whether I just showed up a day, or I've been there for years, because you made us both look bad, and then the team just scored, right?
Yeah.
And then then I turn around and see him go down, and what if he was injured? I get it, but he got up pretty soon after everything, and it's like, hello. Now the mindset, the mindset has to be no ball gets past me. Right, as a center back, there's
Yeah.
nobody behind
Left
you.
line.
You should assume there's nobody behind you. The goalkeeper is doing a lot of things. If you can get to the ball, you should get to it, and that's one of those. So I think they've he might not have taken a step back, but I think it definitely is not the right time for him to be in the squad at that time. Maybe we'll see a totally different player next year after he's had some time, but I think it wasn't the right time. It's not the right time, and you don't see. We always go back to the big clubs and what they would do at certain times. They wouldn't bring in a player like that at this point in the season. You see teams bring in players that are going to be able to help them get across the line, right? Not just learn how to run kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's what we needed. We need players that are going to help us get across the line, which in our case was, let's try to get this title, right? It was, as people said, it was in our hands. I mean, we dropped the ball, we bottled it, in the way that the thing ended.
At least show the mentality that you can get to 90 points, and you're leaving yourself open to criticism and analysis if you fall short. Arsenal forever. Craig is here. This is to mythology. No intensity, no desire. You're still playing for Arsenal Football Club. You have to remember this. Don't do what Arteta was trying to do. The players look confused, and so did I watching this. Yeah, and Arteta had become very predictable in his lineups, and then he sort of switches it up to where many people didn't know where Partey was going to be lining up and Kivior was going to be lining up. Arsenal title challenge collapses, embarrassing. So, Stan, we're asking Kivior in particular to come in and deputize. Rob Holding didn't work out. We saw against Manchester City away from home, Arteta is slow to make changes in the first half, as you mentioned. He didn't do it yesterday either. Why experiment for away from home against the side fighting for their lives? What a mess. Now we know Kivior can really only deputize for Gabriel Magalhaes. And I saw Kivior coming off in the second half, quite confused as to what he was expected to do in that role, I thought.
Well, if he just stayed with the flat back four and deployed Kivior next to Gabriel Magalhaes again, which is something that he'd done before, just stick with that so that it's not too confusing for him. Now I did hear, looking at Kieran Tierney, initially I'm thinking to myself, well, if I'm Kieran Tierney, I must be sitting there thinking, am I that bad that when they're now the number one left back is away, rather than pick me, Mikel Arteta would rather rip up everything that he's done all season and change everything around because I'm that bad? That's what I'd be thinking. Do you know what I mean? He's gone to a different formation. He's put this guy in here, and I'm sitting here, and I could slot into the left back position. Now, I have heard since, I don't know how true it is, that there was an injury concern. I don't know that to be 100% true, but I did notice that when he did come on, we did manage to get a little bit of control back into the game and looked like we had a little bit more of a shape when he kind of reverted things. But by then, it was too little, too late. The damage had already been done. So for me, for me yesterday, what I would have looked to have done there is continued with the same formation that you've been using and the similar tactics, but maybe just change some faces. So rather than continuing to run Saka into the ground, maybe have Saka on the bench and you start a Reece Nelson. Obviously, Martinelli won't be playing, so you start a Trossard in there. You could maybe start Eddie instead of Gabriel and have Gabriel on the bench. There's a few things that you could do to sort of you could put ESR in there. This gives you an opportunity to, if you're thinking about players of whether the team has outgrown certain players, you could maybe use this game and the next game to have a look at some of those players to help you make a final decision. Rather than putting players in, and do you know what I mean? In different formations that they've not played in before, different positions that they're not used to, you're putting so many different pegs into the wrong sized holes. You're not giving them a chance, right? What chance have they got?
No, I really don't think, and I hope that what Craig is saying here is not true. Arteta played for Rangers, Tierney played for Celtic. Arteta does not like Tierney because of that. That can't be the reason why Tierney is not being preferred over Kivior. And as you said, why not go to what we've been playing? Kivior alongside Gabriel in the middle, Ben White on the right, and Kieran Tierney an established left back. When Zinchenko's not around, Kieran Tierney's got to play. So it really doesn't make much sense. He sort of destroyed the confidence of two players, Kivior and Partey. And Partey's confidence must be fragile.
And you allow Tierney to play his natural game, you know, how he plays his game. And you just remind the midfielders now, you just say, look, we've not got Zinni today. So be mindful that we're not going to have an extra person maybe coming into the midfield as often. Be mindful of that, you know. Be efficient with your passing. Be aware of who's around you. You can't try and compensate for that player that's out rather than asking Tierney to do something that he can't. And that's how you play the game. That's how you approach it, I think.
And we were completely inefficient in our passing. Kieran Tierney came on. He helped a little bit, but it seemed like every time he go to the byline, the ball would come off of his body. Nottm Forest would get a goal kick rather than a corner for us. The referee, for me, was horrible as well. Touching Nottm Forest players, they're going down. They're receiving free kicks for minimal contact. And I think VAR is making everybody lazy. Referees lazy as well. But we have to be better than the referee, and we have to overcome that as well. Tierney's gone. That much is obvious, Gary. I mean, it does look like Kieran Tierney, he is committed to Arsenal while he's going to play for the team, but I think come the summer break, he's probably going to be wanting to move.
Yep, Tierney's probably gone. Emil Smith-Rowe's probably gone. I mean, if you're not going to be able to utilize them now, it's going to get worse next season in terms, not even worse, but I mean, it's going to be even more intense, and there's a lot more. There's more urgency in the games, meaning that because next year we have to come out and play every game looking similar in the way that in style that we want to play. And if we can't do it this year, when we only towards the end of the season only had just the one just Premier League games to be concerned with, next season we cannot take steps off, foot off the gas kind of thing as we move along this next season. If they're not going to play, then they have to go. I keep saying it. If you're not going to play these players, then let them go. Keeping them and then not playing them is a waste of them for their careers. It was a waste of your time because you look at the bench, you can't use them, so let them go. I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong. What did Emil Smith-Rowe do before he got injured? I mean, I think he's been injured most of the season. Not necessarily he can't fit into what we do. Tierney has a role, just like Jorginho has a role. If he loves holding for all these things, right? He has a role too, and his role is you're the third center back, right? That's it. When we start having to bring him in as our backup, and then we have issues because that's not his role. We see it when he comes on the pitch. Everything changes. So everybody has a position on the team, and Arteta needs to use that. So I think we're looking at all, we're going to be talking about all these players, but it's because of Arteta and the way that he manages his squad. That's why players have to go, and it's not necessarily because they don't fit and they don't have a role and they can't be productive in this team. I mean, you bring in a Tierney, what are you expecting? You're expecting maybe to solidify your defense on the back line a lot more, right? You either have a lead you're going to hold on to, or the other team is beating you up eventually. Essentially, you need to slow that down. So we've needed that multiple times to close out games, and we've never used it. I mean, his substitution patterns are still terrible in that sense, consistently not being used the right way to close out games, to make significant changes in games. That hurts the team.
What do you think of, Stan, what do you think of what Gary's saying there? Like, basically, the trust issues that Arteta has with players is undermining the confidence the players have in the manager, or the players have being at the club.
It's like quality over quantity, because we've got a short squad as it is, and just looking at the stories that you're hearing of who we're looking to bring in versus what is going to go out, it tells me that we're going to have a small squad again, because we're not going to be able to replace all of those players. Do you see what I mean? Or a couple of them are still going to be hanging around because they haven't been able to, no decent offers have come in for them. Nobody wants them. They're going to be hanging around, and will find themselves in a similar situation where they'll be traveling to matches and not being used because Mikel doesn't want to use them. But he'd
That's gotta change.
he'd maybe probably have a Rob Holding on the bench rather than an academy centre back on the bench, if you know what I mean. Even though he's not going to use them, but he'd rather do that. But then for me, I would rather have the quality over the quantity. You know,
Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
just to me,
Well, you have to have both, though.
I just think that we're not going to have two quality players in every position. You know, the Man City model. We won't have that after the end of this summer window.
I think that's not correct, though.
Got again, and then we're going to have to wait to other transfer windows to continue again to build on that squad. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think I was thinking about this, and you look at Man City's bench. I didn't watch the game today. I didn't want to watch City in their glory parade. You look at their bench. You look at who they were sitting for today, and that's a quality bench, and they were able to put out a quality team. I think they probably won 1-0. I'm not sure. Right? But Manchester United can't do that. Newcastle United can't do that. Liverpool can't do that. Arsenal can't do that. So these are the things that we're up against. But it has to be a situation where we use our squad effectively, use our resources.
But you know what? Before you guys move on, City does not have two at every position. They don't. We talk about it over here all the time about versatility with players, and that's how it seems like you have a player for every role on the pitch. The problem for me, and the problem I think, the big problem we have is we don't ever use it. Like we know that Ben White can play as a center back, you know, but we never saw it until when. Like we saw it in the last game, you know, in the previous game. But during the season, when it probably was beneficial to do it as well, so that you could rotate some of your center backs, because it was either it was Saliba and Gabriel, and that's it, right? In reality, you could have rolled in a Ben White, because we always said, you know, Ben White would be. I didn't like that option. That's why I wanted more players. But if you're going to keep them, and you still need to rotate your players, and you have a Tomiyasu there, you can get Tomiyasu into the game. Ben White can play rest one of your center backs and give everybody a little bit of a rotation there, right? So we just don't use them the way we do. We know that Saka can play in multiple positions. We know Trossard can play in multiple positions. You know, we just don't use them that way. Yeah. Jesus can play in multiple positions. We don't use them enough to help to show that, look, we can rotate players. And we, as you say, if he wants to go the Pep route, and that's the thing, all of this stuff we keep talking about is Arteta and what he's done based on what he learned from Pep. He doesn't do any of that stuff. If he did, we wouldn't be in a situation we are.
He got us.
Pep.
He got us into the position where we were first place for.
No, but the problem
70% of the season.
Yeah, but that's when things are perfect. Things are running smoothly. You are getting the results that you want, even though your performances aren't so good, right? But then we never fix the performance issues. And then eventually the performance issues catch up to you, and then you lose, right? Like you should be able to see, look, the performances are dipping off. We said this all the time. Saka looks like he is. He is looking not so good lately. His form is off.
Get into Saka a little bit later.
So then us and Man City, right? If you're making a comparison,
no, I did not make it. You guys said
I am.
Somebody said
I am. I'm making a comparison. If that's all right.
I said they had a fantastic bench today.
I think the key differences with Man City is that they have a group of players that they rotate, and there's no drop off. They don't have backup players. The players that are on the bench are first-team players. The players that are playing can sometimes be on the bench. The difference with Arsenal is that we have backup players. We have a first 11, and then we have backup players. And the backup players that we have aren't as good as the first 11. So there's a big drop-off when they do come in. So Mikel doesn't want to use them if he doesn't have to. What we need to do is we need to have players of good quality as that first 11. So it's more of a rotation. It's not a backup player.
Is Trossard a backup player?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So he's not good enough to start for us.
Gary,
the way he's being used, he's a backup player. But he can start in the Premier League game. It wasn't as if he didn't have 9. It wasn't as if he hadn't scored 3 goals against Liverpool.
There's a drop-off,
right?
If you
use him incorrectly, then yes.
Exactly.
Hey, Gary,
if the game was hitting the crossbar, we'd be champions.
Just Stan. Just let Stan come across first, Gary, and then you can respond to it.
I think he is. I think he is a backup player. You know, look,
the way Mikel Arteta
it's no
is using him.
It's no different to Tomiyasu when he came in. It's no different to Tavares when he came in. New players come in, they're in a new environment, they're all full of piss and vinegar, and they play a little bit above their level. And then they plateau, and then you see where they really are. Tomiyasu is not good enough to play for Arsenal in the first team. He's not. He's not available. And when he does come on, I've watched him now. He turns the ball over a lot. He was full of piss and vinegar when he first came in. Same thing with Tavares when he came in. Oh, look at Tavares. He's better than Kieran Tierney. Even when Kieran Tierney came back, they didn't want Kieran Tierney to start.
Okay, do you have to keep tickling me for saying that?
You know, I'm glad you're doing that because it's not. These aren't things I've said.
Yes, it was me.
When we saw that he was crap, and now he's out on loan.
Yes, can we move past the fact that I said that?
No, we like that. I like that. I actually like what he just said there.
I
hear what you're saying. But you know what? You're looking at the players, and I'm looking at how they're being used as well.
Yes,
right?
Gary, one second. I've got a question for Stan, which will crystallize what you're trying to say as well. Stan, one question for you. You and I were banging on about Trossard before we even signed him. We wanted that player. We signed him. I'm going to tell you, I'm not happy with the way Arteta has used him. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with the way Arteta has used him sparingly? He's been the player who's had to come on for Martinelli. He's like the first substitute to come on. And even yesterday, he gets moved around from one position to another. He plays the left 8 for 7 minutes, and then he gets taken off. I'm not happy with the way Trossard's been deployed. Do you agree with that, or
what I would say to that is that when he then was taken out of the team when Gabriel Jesus came back, and over some games where people are going, again, Trossard's not starting the next game. He's not starting. He should be starting. When he did start, I thought he was quite meek. Sometimes it's easy to, like, if you have a bad game and you've got something on the bench and it doesn't get used, you can say, if we'd done that, if we had done this, it would have been better. But when he has started in the last couple of times, as I say, he's looked meek. And if the name of the game was hitting the crossbar, we'd be champions.
But you know what? Now I'm going to be his attorney here because now you're just looking at him being used incorrectly and then going, that's why he's poor. Because if you look about it, let me finish.
All right.
He had what, seven assists for a reason, and we enjoyed that because we enjoyed that when we have Jesus on the field, and you know what, he doesn't score, but he does bring something else to the game. I mean, this has to be something said to the fact that when he started 7 games, we had won each one of them, right? He was part of that, and he was definitely delivering in a lot of those games. When you say, I haven't even finished. I get to finish. As soon as he finds a point, let me finish. Finish.
You just asked me a question.
I didn't. I know. I didn't ask. I don't think I asked a question.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Obviously, it was rhetorical then.
You did. You asked the question, Gary. You asked the question, which I agree with. I agree with you. Trossard is getting on the field. We are using him in the. You said, Stan, we're not using him in the right way. Trossard can play in numerous positions. I believe we are using him in the positions that he can help us in. Right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's not like he's been brought on as a holding midfielder, or he's been brought on as a right back. He's been brought on in the positions that he can play in. He's not. And in
some of the positions, he's been better than others. Right? That false 9. I think he had 3 assists for Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus against Fulham way back in March. So listen, I'm in a position here, and let's talk about Bukayo Saka, okay? Bukayo Saka, his goals and assists in 37 games. I'm going to go into numbers now. His goals and assists in 37 games is 24. He's got 24 goals and assists in 37 games. That's basically 65% of the time he's involved in goals or assists. Look at the numbers from Gabriel Jesus. It's a smaller sample size. It's 24 games. He's actually scored 10 goals and had 5 assists. 62.5%. he's just behind Bukayo Saka in that position on the field, right, as a striker. My argument would be, and I know Stan feels this way as well, that we could play Gabriel Jesus on the right, and Bukayo Saka does not have to play 37 games and 3,000 minutes, which Tony talks about. There are players who can come on for Bukayo Saka, and we can still get similar numbers from. Reece Nelson, smaller sample size, 10 games, 5 goals. No, 5 goals and assists. So he's got 3 goals and 2 assists 50% of the time. It's a lower number, but yeah, it can work. Trossard, the same way, 47%. You're seeing a drop off from Saka, but you could actually play these players, Gabriel Jesus, Nelson, or Trossard.
But
In
what is
Saka's
that? That's called
position.
rotation, right? What you're
Yeah.
asking for is what I've been begging for a very long time. Can we
Yeah.
rotate our players? And I keep hearing, oh, well, they don't need to because we're only playing either one game a week. We don't need to for these multiple different reasons. And now we're looking back and going, well, he's not playing so well. But we have answers now. We've seen them. We don't use them enough, or they're not available. That's usually, in Trossard's case, we don't use him enough. And like Nelson, his availability is not there. And it seems like Milstorf Rowe is the same thing, just not available. Those are things we need to get players that are available. But yeah, no, it's all rotation with that. I mean, it's all rotation with
And
that.
I think we are all we're all thinking the same thing, Stan and Gary. We're all thinking the same thing, Stan.
I
We're
find
just
it more of
verbalizing in a slightly different way.
I find it, to me, it looks like more of an over-reliance on Saka. That's what it is. It's an over-reliance and wanting to play him for every minute of every game.
Yeah.
And like you say, when Gabriel Jesus was at Manchester City and Aguero left, everyone thought that naturally he would fit into that position that was left vacant. But he set them up in a different way with Gabriel Jesus on the right-hand side. And I kept, for some reason, seeing clips and games of Man City when he was playing in that position and was surprised how effective he was. Because I always thought that he was a striker, right? Didn't know to play in that position. And he was very, very effective, coming in with assists and scoring goals. So, why can't there be more of a variety where you could probably start a game with Trossard playing in the 9 and having Gabriel playing on the right-hand side with Saka on the bench, giving him a breather.
I think we're all in agreement that
you could probably still get something out of that.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that Arteta didn't utilize Saka the right way. He overused him, and basically he kept him on just because he's confident in him, even though his form broke down, and that doesn't help the player and it doesn't help the team.
He keeps pushing this superstar thing. Ronaldo plays every game. Messi plays every game for their club.
Now they want to spend 300K on him, right? Why?
Yeah, we're giving a young player a lot of money too soon, and he actually could have got more.
Think about that though. I agree with you. It does sound like a lot of money, doesn't it? And I'm always reminded of every time we've put a player on that kind of money, they've never seemed to return. Never seen really much of a return. But then I think to myself, well, if we're not going to give him that kind of money, somebody else out there will, and they'll take him away, and they will pay that. If that's the going rate for if that's the going rate for the player, then
but we're not. We are. I don't know how you feel about this, but we are not a team that can afford to pay multiple players 300K. And if we're going to pay that to a 21-year-old, what happens when we bring in Rice, we bring in a Casado, we bring in any other player who's at the top of their game?
I've heard Rice is 300 as well.
They should be expecting that as well, because I mean, they will have experience on their side. They won't have and Rice has led his team. Most people would say he is the engine of that team, right? So if you're going to bring a player in like that, I would expect him to do exactly the same thing for Arsenal, which would mean that I think people will say, oh, you don't do this, you don't take a captain's armband away, but that's what we need. We need a captain like him, right? He's available and he leads, and he does more than he's scripted to do in a game. right? We've
Yeah.
seen him lately scoring goals. That's not necessarily, things that he does, but he will do whatever it takes sometimes to get.
I think,
And
I
maybe
think he's
we,
like,
maybe we end up then with a captain that's on the pitch for the 90 minutes for the full
I think
game,
he's
right?
gonna, yeah. I think he's gonna be like Lou in our squad. He's gonna fill in the gaps that we need, and I think he's intelligent enough on the field to know where he needs to go to get the ball. Uh, Somebody described him as a unicorn on a previous podcast, and I believe Declan Rice could be a key part in where we're going next season. We got to get him right, but I can't talk about him like he's an Arsenal player.
We're gonna have to spend. We're gonna have to spend at least 80,000, 88,000,
Yeah,
80 million on one of two players, Casado or Rice. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked. So I think was it on this show we asked the question of which player we want.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I prefer. I think I want Casado.
Yeah, you did say Casado. Stan said Casado as well. I think I went with Rice, but both players are good. There's an upside to everything. Wonga, that's about the strength of it. Do you realize if City win all their games, that will be a 15-point swing? Ridiculous at any level. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we got 9. We're going to get 9 points out of 27. Yeah. Or 12 from 27.
Yeah, well, right now it's 9. We don't even know the way we've been coming out and playing. I expect us to come out and play like, we're playing at home and stuff like that. But we saw against Brighton that home field advantage doesn't really matter the way this team's been playing.
Stan, do you think the players outside the leadership group have confidence in him? The players that are not getting games and minutes, right, Stan?
I'd ask maybe some of those players like Kieran Tierney. Does he know? Does Kieran Tierney have any confidence in himself with the way that he's not been getting any minutes?
Teabag.
Yeah, I thought they killed Teabag at one point. I thought they killed Teabag at one point yesterday when he came on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, he does. I don't think he needs to bulk up. I'm going to contradict myself, but he was very lightweight. Yes,
and I'll keep saying it. It's not only just the weight that might help. He might get a little bit of strength. That's not how he's going to get. You put muscle on people, it just slows them down, and then you're like, this isn't the player I wanted anyways.
You
wanted to play. You wanted the same player. He just needs to adapt to the game, which means it needs to speed up in his head a lot faster. He needs to know what he's going to do before he touches the ball, and that way he's ahead of the game, right? You look at the smaller, shorter players. Yes, sometimes they're stockier, but sometimes they're not. And the reason why they do better is because their football IQ is a lot higher, and that's
some players. Some players need to adapt as well. That does happen. Need to adapt to the Premier League and. We almost yesterday with Kivior and Partey was almost like a preseason game, Stan, which is incredulous to me. Trying something new. It felt like a preseason game. You're trying something new. Your formation,
Exactly. I was thinking, if you want to experiment like that, do it on your own time. Don't do it on our time. Do it in a preseason or whatever. Don't do it now at the end of the season.
Us Arsenal fans wanted to watch 2 or 3 games at the end of the season and feel good about where we're going. We're going to get one game.
Kids make an appearance. Do you know what I mean? Give some people a chance. Give the manager an opportunity that if he is thinking of moving some players on and he's not sure, give him another look to validate his decisions.
Here we go, Stan. We're going to go into next season with a lot of Arsenal fans. It's about bringing the base together. And Arsenal fans feeling confident about what we're doing. And that confidence won't be realized till 12 months from now. We get into April and May again. And if we're at the sharp point of our cup competitions or something, you know what I mean?
I don't think we'll ever be able to bring this fan base together. And I say that because I feel that it doesn't matter what we do when there is a mistake or when there is a bump in the road or when something doesn't go our way. We do come on here and places like this and we talk about it, but there are some out there that it almost seems like they're hiding in bushes at the side of the road, just waiting so that when the accident happens, they can jump out waving their arms going, see, look, I told you. I fucking told you this is all shit.
But it didn't. There's bullets there. There's ammunition for.
But my thing is, you're looking at one incident, right? But you're looking at one stop along the road here, right? And you're screaming about that, but then you got to look at this is an entire season, right? It's an entire season. If we look at it for all are there more positive and negative in this season?
Yeah.
And I believe that there's a lot more positives going on in this season than there are negatives.
Yeah.
There's a lot of still room to improve. There's a lot of things we need to fill. But in reality, if you look at the season as a whole compared to where you were last season, with all the parameters, and that's the problem nobody wants to look at. They want to look at, well, back in 30, 40 years ago, this is how Arsenal was run. Well, this isn't that Arsenal. We don't have those players. The mindsets of the players are not the same. We don't. Who are we? Like I always go back. Who are we? Who's our KDB?
Odegaard.
Who's showing up as a KDB this season when we needed a goal in a situation
Odegaard.
where
Still Odegaard.
when did he score? Yeah, but when did he score against City when we needed it? Against West Ham when we needed it.
That's the level.
Southampton when we needed it. Brighton when
Odegaard.
we needed it. Yesterday when we needed it. Like that's what I mean. We don't have that guy yet because in the crucial moments when we need someone, we don't have that guy.
He has
like
been
we
that
bring
guy.
up, but he's not that guy because he hasn't answered the call when we needed him.
You even said 38 games, right? Do you know what I mean?
No,
there are some games where it doesn't go his way, and look, I've been doing this long enough to know that every time a season starts, I know that we're not going to win every single game. I know that we're not going to go invincible. That there will be draws and there will be losses, and I accept that. But what I don't accept with the losses is it's the manner of the loss. And yesterday, the manner of the loss was a shambles. You know, I couldn't say, well, we tried everything. We've left it all out in the pitch. It just wasn't our day. We gave everything. We didn't give hardly anything of what we can give because I've seen us play much better than that this season. That's why I'm angry with yesterday.
Now, did Odegaard give you what you expected out of a captain yesterday?
No.
No, he almost gave them the pre-assist, right? If there's such thing as a
pre-assist. Did he like I said, you're saying Odegaard and you're pushing something on him that maybe he's not that guy. Right?
I know, but
and it's a lot earlier. It's early. It's too early for me.
But look at the comparison you're making, right?
It's too early. No. The comparison is because we need that guy, right?
Yeah, but
that's what the comparison is. We need that guy who
stands out in
the games where we struggled.
Gary, we know the point that you're making. It's Kevin De Bruyne. So
but I'm saying I'm not saying we want a Kevin De Bruyne, but
we have a player
who is our Kevin De Bruyne, who is our player that will show up in those
goals from open play.
Yes,
you tell Gary, you tell me who it is.
I don't think we have that guy.
We're giving you answers that you're not happy with.
I don't think it's Odegaard.
There's one way to look at it, right? Martin Odegaard is 24 years of old. Kevin De Bruyne is 31. This is Odegaard's first full season in the Premier League, and he has. At this moment, he has equaled the record for a player in his position, the same position as Kevin De Bruyne, with 15 goals from open play. And the player that he's tied that with is the player that we're comparing him with.
Yeah. And I for one, I believe all you guys will say the same. He is held back. He scored as much as he could have because he didn't even take the shot. A lot of times he doesn't even take the shot.
It's his first season.
No, but I'm saying so he's still got room to improve. So whatever that level is, he's got But so you're putting a crown on his head already, and I'm saying he's not there yet. He is not.
Nobody's saying he's there yet.
No, but when I say when I said who's our Kevin De Bruyne, you said Erdogan. I said I don't think he's there yet.
Well.
And the stats make him look better, but when those goals go in, when the goals go in, it does matter because we're not seeing
the goals have gone in.
He's not there. He's not the one doing that. Whether he's disappearing or not, you'll see. You can look.
I'm gonna check. I think we had this conversation before.
It's fair to say that Odegaard is on an upward trajectory, but just by his age, right? Whereas the KDB, you'd have to say that he's probably already reached his summit, and he's
you're
like
comparing him
at
1-to-1, and I'm trying to show you that he's not there yet. So why are you bestowing him our Kevin De Bruyne?
Can I say one thing?
He's not that guy yet.
That player.
Gary,
no, but okay. I'm saying he's not that player today.
1 second.
In the future, yes, maybe.
1 second.
But we're not there. We're not there.
Odegaard has. I wrote this down. Okay. He has 15 goals and 7. He has 15 goals and 7 assists. Okay, this season. Kevin De Bruyne has 7 goals and 16 assists. So the stats are similar. It just doesn't pass the eye test for you.
Well, it doesn't because did you see De Bruyne's goal against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu? Did you
What did
what
you
goal?
see
What
Erdegaard's goal at White Hart Lane? Did you see Erdegaard's goal at Newcastle?
what about? And this is we're talking about the end of the season, right? You're talking. Is
Yeah,
that what you're talking
Newcastle.
about?
We just
Yeah.
beat Newcastle. Erdegaard scored a similar
Yeah.
goal to Kevin De Bruyne. One was in the Premier League, the other was in the semi-final of a Champions League. We're not in the semi-finals. We're not in the
No,
Champions League
so
yet.
we have less pressure on us, right? Or we have the same pressure. Which one is
Well,
it?
you're trying to big
No,
up. Kevin De Bruyne has done it. He's coming to the end of his career, and he's in his prime. Some would say right now.
I'm not.
But
I'm
the
saying he's
numbers are
not. I'm
similar.
not expecting him to do that right now, but you guys are, and I'm saying that's what we're missing.
The
When I
numbers
say
are similar.
I'm saying that's what we're missing, and you're saying no, we have Kevin, we have Erdogan. And I'm saying he's not there yet. It's okay.
If
I
the
don't expect him
numbers,
to be there yet. The
Gary,
numbers aren't helping us because
The
why did
numbers
we
would suggest
left?
that he is there.
Yeah, but
the numbers suggest that he is there.
Did you as you just said, we're going to go 3-3-3 to end this season.
Yes, because he doesn't have 10 other players like Kevin De Bruyne has.
Yeah, but he showed. I just told you. You look at the away game at Real Madrid.
What
Right?
happened?
He got one opportunity to score and he made it.
Yeah.
Right?
I wonder what
And
Look
Kevin
at
De
the away
Bruyne.
game at Newcastle.
I wonder what
Erdegaard got one
KDB
opportunity and scored.
I wonder
at
what
Newcastle.
KDB would
What
look
was
like
the
in
score
this
in that
Arsenal
game?
team.
What was the
I
score
wonder
in
what
that game?
KDB would look like in
2-0.
this Arsenal team and what Odegaard would look like in City's team.
True.
You know,
It's not apples to apples, Gary.
10 other players around him, right? There's 10 other
Yeah,
players.
but
I mean-
I'm not asking for. You're asking for how
I
the
am
team
telling
works
you-
around him, and I'm saying
I understand.
what-
I understand what you're saying. I understand you're looking at Erdegaard and he can impose himself in every game. He cannot impose. That's true. I'll agree with you.
If you're feeding the ball to Gabriel Jesus or you're feeding the ball to Haaland, odds will tell you that Haaland's going to be able to finish more of those opportunities than Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah, but
that's not where. It's not what I'm talking about.
the
Who I'm-
stats are the
I'm
same.
talking about
They're the players that are doing the feeding, right? It's Odegaard and De Bruyne who are in that, either the assist or the pre-assist. But if the end person is Gabriel Jesus or it's Haaland, the odds will tell you that Haaland's going to put it in the back of the net more.
Erdegaard has scored as many.
That's not what I'm arguing, but that's fine.
Erdegaard has scored as many goals.
That is definitely true.
Erdegaard has scored as many goals as Kevin De Bruyne has had assists, and he's had as many assists as De Bruyne has had goals. The stats are very, very similar when you look at them. And I understand it. It's the eye test. Kevin De Bruyne is majestic in that Man City team. And Erdegaard struggles in certain games because he doesn't have the players around him either. You know what I mean? Erdegaard knows he has to play 150%. Stan, go ahead.
You got Xhaka next to him, right? And no disrespect, but Xhaka sometimes you run into the box and he's like, "Do I shoot? Do I pass?" And by the time he's thinking about it, the ball's been nicked off of him. Situations like that, KDB, he runs into the box, and Bernardo Silva, he doesn't think about it. He slips the ball to Kevin De Bruyne. You got a goal.
I get it. Gary is talking about like the talisman. Kevin De Bruyne is the Man City talisman, right?
You guys are bringing up every other. I'm talking about his individual aspects, and that's when I need him to show. Like, who's our guy? Like I just remember back.
What do you care about?
Back years ago when I first started watching Arsenal and Robert Van Persie was on there, I knew that if we needed goals, he would get the goals for us. I knew that when Giroud came on, guess what? He was going to get goals for us. I knew that, right? That's just they have the thing about them, and they are more seasoned veterans. I'm not asking him. I'm saying we don't have that player right now. You're saying that's the guy. And I'm saying he's not there yet because that's not what I feel. That's not the level he's at right now because he's still filling out his game right now. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say. And that's the difference between us and some of those other teams that have maybe established players that will bring those will answer the call.
People will ask me who has Arteta improved their game in. Erdegaard could be one of those players because he wasn't taking those shots. We want him to not refuse shots and take more shots. But at the end of the day, he scored 15 goals and 7 assists in 36 games. And those numbers, if you care about stats only, then they're very close
But
to
we don't
Kevin De
care about
Bruyne.
stats only because they don't always get you the wins, right? Because they're not getting us the wins that we wanted, right, to see out the season. So the stats are part of it. You can look at that, but also at the end of the day, is did you win the game, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that relies on 10 other players on the field as well as
Or
Odegaard.
just the moments of brilliance, like we've seen, right?
Yeah,
So sometimes you don't get 20 chances to get the game to get the winning goal. Sometimes you get 5, and one of them's got to hit.
and I think we all agree here. There's easily 5 players. It could be more. We need 5 players, right? A fullback, whether it be left or right, a central defender, 2 midfielders, and a bona fide striker for me.
Yeah, Russ, this comment was for not just at the end of the
And a
season.
wide
It's
player.
for during. It's in the middle. It's when we saw Tommy come in against Liverpool, right? And he had it. He answered the call then, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't he get more games because of that? You know what I mean? He didn't, and that's
Why did he
part of
not?
my
Yeah.
that's part of my concern is that even when the players do show up and they actually do, they get presented with a challenge and they actually show up, then they don't get to show it again.
Here's the thing: we were on a pace at halfway. We were at about 50 points halfway through the season, and you see the Holy Grail. I understand you go for it. You know, we were on pace for 100 points at halfway. Second half of the season, we're on pace for 60 some points, and average that out, you don't get to where you want to get to. You get to somewhere around 80 points or more, a little bit more than that. You know what I mean? So it is disappointing. Hopefully, there's lessons need to be learned, Stan. They always say this league is a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yeah, lessons do need to be learned, and I also think that Mikel Arteta could have taken a little bit more of the onus in his press conference as well. He could have said something more along the lines of, I wanted to try something today, something that we've been working on and something I had some ideas about, but it didn't quite work out for us today. Did you know what I mean? That kind of a rhetoric can take the heat off the players, because he's the one that makes the formations and puts out the lineup and puts the players where they're going to be. So I think he should have taken more of the heat. Do you know what I mean? It's all well and good buying dogs and calling it win and planting olive trees in the dressing room because you want to remind players about growth and nurturing. But when you do stuff like that in the game, it just makes that other stuff seem a bit a bit off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it just opens up. It just opens up for more criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did he blame? Did he say what was the reasons behind the way the team played
in the press conference?
Did he say like what it was that was the cause of the way the fact that you're playing a team who's fighting relegation and you get 80% of possession and you don't really get too many shots that you go, well, I think that one probably could have gone in,
He just seemed more kind of like, we know what we need to do. And, if we're going to be in the Champions League, we need to be better than that. And that sort of stuff, right? Yeah. Where to me, it was like, it was a lot of we, which brings the players into it. And there wasn't enough I for me.
Yeah. He needs to take ownership. He needs to, but the same way I want him to be able to say I also want him to be pissed at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I put a plan together to win this game, and guess what? These players did not go out there and perform the way I wanted. And actually, not just give you a little snippet of it, but just say, look, I want to show because if he's learning anything from the managers that he's been in, some of them will actually bring out the fact that they didn't see what they expected to see on that pitch today, and that is a message
for
right.
The same reason for some reason I do like his press conferences, but then I don't, because he never gets drawn in by journalists. So he doesn't give journalists a dramatic headline. Think about Conte. His final presser for the Southampton game basically called out Daniel Levy for everything. At the same time, Mikel Arteta doesn't get drawn into that. He's very clever, but he never really says anything with real substance either. So I understand you probably don't like press conferences. I know he doesn't like press conferences. He likes to get on with the job of managing the team. And this is his way of navigating through press conferences. We never really get much from him. I do know he has said more often than not now that at 2-2 against West Ham, you need to be scoring. He's basically said about Bukayo Saka needs to be scoring that penalty to go 3-1 up or whatever. Stefan's here. Arsenal have done fantastic, but winning the league with a weaker squad, albeit a potentially decent side compared to City, was inevitable. Sorry.
Yeah.
There
Fair
are
comment.
points.
Fair comment.
We have to recognize there are points that we left on the board now as well, from players making individual mistakes to the manager making in-game mistakes as well.
Yeah. No, we needed, as I said, going into
Perfect.
that stretch of games, right? We need to win those 10 games going into the City match to give us a good chance.
Yeah.
And we didn't do that. And you know what? And then what happened? It just collapsed the way the season ended. We pretty much could not respond to those draws the way we wanted to, and we saw.
And as Stan said, we couldn't have clumps of L's together or like a wobble. And it's interesting that a couple of our wobbles led up to the games versus Man City, home and away.
Yeah.
We lost Everton. We drew to that team that begins with a B, that we shall not speak about. And Lee Mason losing his job over not drawing lines. And then 3 draws leading up to this Ethihad as well, very damaging. Anfield, West Ham, and Southampton. Those are points we could have gotten closer to, and it would look really, really more respectable at the end of the season when we're looking at the table. At the same time, we are looking down at teams below us that we have a big gap to as well. Newcastle, Man United, and other teams that are way down there as well. I believe I'm not afraid of other teams retooling and equipping, Stan, and having the league race be across 4 or 5 teams next season.
I think for this season as well, the teams that I call the big heads, like them across the road, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, they all seem to have problems with how they've been managed in-house this season. Decisions that have been made, getting rid of managers, not appointing the right manager, taking too long. Do you know what I mean? Not doing it, having an aging team and not doing anything about it. It seems that there's been a lot of that going on with some of the other teams. And you got to think that they're going to put that right. That doesn't usually bleed over for a couple of seasons with the bigger teams. So they're going to be a little bit more on their game next season, I would imagine, and probably won't drop as many silly points as they have. I don't think Chelsea will continue to be as bad. They still may have to sort of, take a slow creep up the table as they rebuild with a new manager. But I don't think they can be as bad as they have been this season because they just have so many players available which are of a good quality, right? They just have to find the way to put it all together. I think Liverpool will be back. They're going to spend in the summer, but so are we. We're not going to be the same beast going into the Champions League as we were at the beginning of this season. We're going to have new faces, but I don't know if we're going to be able to bring in enough for what we need because, when you mentioned all of those positions that you mentioned earlier, Ray, you missed one out. We also need another winger, another sort of a wide forward, because if Reece Nelson is going, not that he was getting used, but there is still no cover for Saka.
I feel Trossard can do that. I feel Gabriel Jesus can do that in those positions as well.
I feel that they can do that, but he doesn't seem to do that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether when we bought Gabriel Jesus, I don't know what promises were made, what clauses are in the contract. I don't know if you actually, sometimes now when you sign for a club, part of the negotiation is where are you going to play me? Oh yeah, I'm playing you through the middle. Okay, great. Do you know what I mean? One of these things are promised because he doesn't seem to want to try Jesus in any other position.
Yeah.
I think Arteta does know his starting 11 down there as well.
And that's the problem. He knows he's starting 11, but he doesn't seem to think that anybody else can be part of
come in.
that or can come in and fix
Yeah.
it when it doesn't work, when the other team has an answer. You know, it's
Mhm.
there is, as we talk about all the time, there is another team out there as well, and they can answer the call as well and have answers for whatever we do. Sometimes we have to either switch it up or we have to refresh in the players. So do one of the two, and we don't seem to do either. And so it just sits there and we just, banging our heads against the wall, right?
It's almost like if Mikel Arteta could, he'd play his first 11 in every single game, every competition, if he could make that possible.
Yeah.
He writes his plan in pen, right? He can't erase it, and so it just sits there, and it's like it's gonna work. It's gonna work like 90% of the time or 80% of the time, whatever that number is.
Yeah.
But for the other times, you need to have an answer, right? I mean, you look at it. We've dropped points in 12 games. That's pretty good, right? And we can always look at those 12 games and say, well, were there players that could have helped us get
We have dropped
some
points.
Some of those draws into wins,
Yeah.
some of those wins, some of those
6.
losses into draws, kind of thing,
Exactly.
And I think, and I believe we have some of the answers. He has to, as you say, we keep saying he has to have some confidence in the players that he has in this team, regardless of what level they are. Like Ake coming in, I don't think people were expecting him to play the way he did, but I have no doubt that Pep put some confidence into him, and that's why he plays the way he is. Xhaka, I believe he puts a lot of confidence into Xhaka, right, and puts him in positions to succeed, and that's why we saw what we saw this season. If he did that to all 25 players, I think you'll see improvement across the the whole squad.
You mean what he did with Granit Xhaka?
Yeah, in terms of like this is what I feel. I don't know this to be true, but I feel like he puts a lot of confidence into him with the way that he talks about him, the way that he plays him, and all of that.
He affords him the respect as well that he doesn't give to some of the other players, I believe.
Yeah. And some of them are young and maybe they don't deserve it just yet, but you need to sometimes give it to them anyways to see if you can help them get across to where they will, they will trust you and they will believe, like, look, he has trust in me, and I'm going to show him why he should, and I don't think we see that sometimes.
It's like at work. It's like at work when you get a word of advice, you got to buck up, or you're going to be moved on, and then that's what he did with Granit Xhaka last season. If you can't play this left 8 position, I'm going to move you on, Stan. That's what he said to Granit Xhaka.
But even if you have a favoured 11, your favoured 11 out of the squad, at some point, people in that 11. They're going to come in and out of form.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you got to take them out of the squad and put other people in. And he hasn't done that very well this season, Mikel Arteta, to be fair. There's players that come out of form and he's left them in for too long. Thomas Partey, Saka.
Yep.
That's just you to think of. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more ruthless and take somebody out and put somebody else in.
That I think this is huge what you just said. He wants to love his players too much, and it's too much of this soft love.
But you know what? It's more than the starters, right? It's more than the starters.
Everybody.
It's everybody. And it might actually be also his assistants. Is he actually listening to them?
Pep would not do this. Pep would have you score a hat-trick. You're Riyad Mahrez. You score a hat-trick in the Cup semi-final. You don't get to play the next game. Sorry. You're getting treated like a professional. Arteta needs to learn that as well, I believe. Russ says, like Tony 2.0 here, Man City players averaged 2,500 minutes of football this season. Saka played 3,200. We are overplaying him, and I'm afraid he will get burned out.
You got to remember, he's looking at you're looking at just the Premier League numbers.
Yeah.
If you add like they're playing Champions League numbers, and so their numbers are a little bit closer to ours. What we add some of the Champions League games, some of the later game, the cup club games that they're playing. So they do have some players that are over 3,000 minutes, but that's because they rotate, right?
Yeah.
We don't rotate, and that's why we see this. And so you rotate, the numbers will be similar to what you see from some of the City players. One, because they don't have to, they shouldn't have to play, for example, against a Southampton who's sitting 20th, right? We should be able to put some players that are pretty much getting close to that, the red line essentially, and they should be able to sit out, at least not start in those games throughout the season, just so that they're fresh when they do play. We don't do that at all. Right? Nobody like you said, nobody plays the first 11 for 20 games straight.
No.
If they could. I mean, the only reason why we let players out is because of injuries, and that can't be. Let's not get to the point where they're injured. Why don't you just pull them out when they're looking taxed?
That's why I'm afraid. That's why I'm afraid we're going to get a season-ending injury to one of our players next season with all the football we're going to play. And Kelly gets $100,000. Saka maybe getting 300. How much is Saliba going to be worth, Stan?
I think when you look at Saka, I've heard it's 290,000, and I'm just totally speculating here, but I would imagine maybe 200 is the base salary, and then the rest, the 90 is made up of add-ons and bonuses and this and that. So it's not a flat rate. I would imagine that's probably how it works, right? But I mean, if it's the going rate, it's the going rate. As I mentioned earlier, I'm hearing that the package for Rice is a £92 million bid with a package to the player of 300,000, which is, again, it's probably made up of a base and then add-ons for bonuses and this, that, and the other.
We're going in the right direction. So, Saliba should recognize he can stay with us for a couple of seasons. Okay, he could be the player that's going to go to a PSG or a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich in time. But Saliba should commit.
Why is it taking so long though? This is what I don't get, because it's not a case of
because it was back as well.
Yeah, but it's not a case of I want to focus on the last games of the season and then we'll sit down and talk. His season's finished. He's convalescing. It's quite easy to have conversations on the phone or come into the office. I don't understand why it takes so long. You either want to play or you don't.
I think we underestimate the agent, Stan.
But look at the positives, right? If I'm looking at the play and I'm thinking, well, do I want to be here next season? You see all of the other talent are signing up. So you think, okay, well, that's good. No one's going to be leaving unexpectedly. We're finishing, at second in the league. There's talks about bringing the players that they're talking about bringing in, their quality, a Declan Rice, a Caicedo. That sounds like a quality. I don't understand what his problem is. What is it that why would he not want to sign a contract?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't understand. And he's got the time to do it.
Yeah, and if Saka is 300K, then what is one of the best young centre backs in the league?
Close, right? 200 some. Yeah,
I don't think he's a 300 contract. No
Not
way.
300.
What's he on? What is he on now? I have no idea what he's on now.
But if I'm big guessing, if I said 60 or 80, something like that,
Okay.
So somebody knows, let me know.
£120,000 a week, I think, would be is a reasonable, sufficient sum for a young man of 21.
Yeah.
And a re-signing fee. There's usually a re-signing fee of a lump sum in there as well.
Yep. And we will get our money back on Saliba. If his career progresses the way we see it going.
How much you paid? 27, wasn't it?
27 million. Yeah. Henry Ray Baker, Arsenal has no chance of getting Caicedo. So says you. Why can't we get Caicedo? I believe we will get him if we want. It's too early yet to start talking about it, but why can't Caicedo come to Arsenal? No reason why not. Our club hasn't got winners, I'm afraid to say, said Arsenio. The Invincibles had winners throughout the whole squad, including the bench, and I mean the winning mentality. This Arsenal doesn't have that, sadly. Our Invincibles had some players. You'd be shocked at the quality of some of our players if you look back at it. But they had mentality. What?
Sylvain Wiltord, right? As a forward player who played on the right and through the middle, was on the bench a lot. And when he came on, or if a player was injured and he came in for a period of time, you didn't see a huge drop-off.
He'd do a job. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's no reason why it's difficult to see us getting Declan Rice and Caicedo. But
that's what we need.
If the Cronkies are going to go all out, Gary,
yeah.
Cronkies could win. They win something in everything they go into. They win, right?
And whether they made some big expenditures to do that, right? They had a quarterback. They got him to the Super Bowl, and they still went out and got another quarterback. and he got them to the Super Bowl with the win. So that's almost that right there. That would be like replacing any of the players we're talking about, right? Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, Erdegaard. Just because we need to get that much better, right? That's and if it's the linchpin that you need, that one player that can bring everybody up, then that's what you do, all right? So it may not be that okay. You know what? It's we don't we're okay because we have a really good player there, but maybe we need to get better there as well. And maybe that's the linchpin to the whole thing. Like what if the player is Erdegaard and he's not getting us there today, and we want to get there tomorrow, like immediately, and we go get a player better than Erdegaard, and we replace him, and that gets us even across the line. Then that's what you do, right? That's what they've done, and that's what KC has done. Right?
Or if you put Declan Rice in there, you put Caicedo in there, Erdegaard's going to be more secure doing his job.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is what they did. If you bring up what KC did with their NFL team, they took a really good player, a young up-and-coming player, and they went and got an established player who had been playing for many years on a team that wasn't that good, but he was a really good quarterback, and he was the one that got him across the line.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not necessarily that you go out and get the best young shiny thing. Sometimes you have to go out and get the old head, the older player with some miles on their tires, and that player gets you across the line because one, they've got a little bit more fire, and they actually have been playing in the league and playing in football in the sport for a while. So
look, whether you like Arteta or dislike him, there's no doubt he's got the ear of the owners. He can speak to the owners. And I think Ray Baker is talking about our record in Champions League under maybe Arsene Wenger. We would get to quarterfinals. I believe the ambition here under Arteta is to do better than that.
It's the same as everything else we're doing. We're not playing in the Premier League not to try to win it.
That's
the ultimate goal, right? But no. Arsenal's ultimate goal is to win all the trophies, right? Right, to pick up all the trophies. Yes, there are milestones along the way that you can say, are we trending towards getting that? And if we aren't, then we need to fix it. Or is this manager is he going to get us to that level, and then we make changes there? But that's the ultimate goal, right? Is at the end of the day, we want to be. We do all want to get trophies at the end of this thing, right?
We can't be this. I'm going to liken this to that team, right? Pochettino with Tottenham, that team down the road. We cannot be in the same kind of golden years that they were coming into. I'll go to Stan, and not come out of this with some silverware after 4 or 5 years. Tottenham had that with Pochettino.
That's what you measure yourself of what you've done is by the trophies that you've managed to bring in. That's what people are looking for. But regarding the business that we do, I have no doubt that the money and the funds will be made available by the owners. None at all. That I think that's perfectly clear. My only concern is how that money is going to be spent, and the person that helps spend the money, as in Edu, whether they can get the side of getting in contact with the players and getting the deals tied up without them dragging on, without it becoming a media circus, without Todd Bowley going, what are Arsenal doing? Right, let's get in there. They're taking too long. Let's get up. Let's be decisive. If you want player X and the team says you have to pay 90 million for player X, don't go in with 80. Or 70.
No, it's funny you bring up Bowley, because I think I saw something about Vlahovic. They're going to go like 87 million for Vlahovic. That's the proposed bid for him. Supposedly.
I'm way behind in the comments section here. Let's try and catch up. I agree with you, Stan. We will get a lot of money from the owners sustainably. Not necessarily the owners are not writing checks. It's what we're going to be allowed to spend.
Oh, I'll tell you something I did hear. That behind the scenes at West Ham, there seems to be a difference on how to accept the deal from Arsenal. So you've basically got the owner side of it and the board side of it wanting it to be a deal where as much cash up front with the least add-ons. So, we give them 80 million and there's like 12 million that to make the 92 would be add-ons, something like that. Whereas David Moyes, apparently, he's actually interested in taking a group of players from Arsenal. Sambi Lokonga was one, and there was two others, wasn't there? Was it Reece Nelson and another
Balogun.
player?
Balogun. Balogun, Reece Nelson, and Sambi.
Which to me, if that can be done, and and that includes maybe a few quid on top of those players, if you want to move those players on, this would be an ideal way of getting the deal done.
This should have been done yesterday.
You bring in the one that you do, and
Stan, it's done. It should have been done already. We printed the contract. It's sitting on their doorstep.
There's a lot of
next Monday, a week from Monday, they just sign it, and guess who walks it over? Rice just walks it over. That's like that right there. If that's what it's easy. It's done. Right? Just get it done. Like we need to move in a certain direction. That's what we would do.
Yeah.
Those are the three players they want. Great. We move on.
Well, they want one of those. I don't think they can
have all three, and we can lower the. Oh, Balogun.
No,
how much is that going to cut? Is that going to cut?
Is that
going to cut it? Is that going to cut it in half? What they're looking for in money?
It should do.
Right. You know what I mean? Like that means it should be, we should be spending anywhere from 30 to 50 million in cash to get the player. But for me, I think Rice is that important to what we need to do. I know Balogun is also, but I don't know. I think we got to talk with priorities, right? And our priority now is to fix that middle and have it be there settled for as long as our front line is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our front line is pretty young, and we want to keep everybody, the guy behind them and the guys holding up that part of the the field, to be there with them as well as they move along.
Yeah, and look, say what you like about the French league, if you've rated or not. Balogun has hit 20 goals now.
Lacazette's got 26, so there you go, right? Some people are like, well, but Lacazette's got 26, and he's
Lacazette's been doing it as well. Russ said likelihood is we are going to finish double digits behind City. It basically looks like we didn't even compete in the end. Fair play to Liverpool. They've competed with City and dragged them all the way to the last games sometimes. I could go manage City and win the flipping league. Anyone of us could. Kyle Watch and Warren Convo, whatever that is, LOL. Sad reality is we ain't the same club that was winners. Now we are a joke who get battered by the likes of Brighton and Nottm Forest. Notice we're not really talking about yesterday's game. For me, there's nothing really to talk about. We didn't have anything of note to really talk about. That was probably our worst performance for me yesterday of the season. Evening people, just would like to say the entire team yesterday were about as much use as an ashtray on a motorbike. Yeah. Let me skim through a couple of these here. Stan and Kedia beat and Alan Shearer record. He beat a record stat. Doesn't make it better. Interesting. Gary has turned heel on Ethihad. I knew you had it in you, Gary.
I didn't turn heel. I did not turn heel. You didn't listen to the conversation.
Henry, well, Russell hears what Russell wants to hear, right? Henry, oi, check who's available, and I'm afraid we might pick up some bargains. De Bruyne will be a City for another 5 years.
You are well behind.
I'm wrong. That's why I want to break the conversation.
You have to read all of them out, or else we'll be here until the end of the show.
Skimming through. Our problem isn't players per se. It's FSG with their wallet keeping zipped like their flies. De Bruyne is twice the player Ethihad is mentally and physically. True. Could be true.
It is true.
You're looking at the physique of a player.
You guys were just talking about he is not De Bruyne. And that's what exactly he just said right there. And now you're hesitating on it? No, you just said that's exactly what it is. He's not there yet.
Two players can be physically different and bring similar stats, in my opinion.
Mentally and physically, he's not the same player. And physical doesn't mean he's strong like an ox. It means the way that he plays, right?
He brings it. It's hard to compare exact the same players because they have different attributes.
But you know what
Right.
they're saying. You're going down to the minute,
Minute
you know,
details,
and that's not what we're trying to say here.
minutia.
Because when
Uh,
I said he's not De Bruyne, you said he is. Were you going down to the finer details, like he is a Champions League, you know, quality player, and that is going to star for you? You're not going to say that yet because he hasn't even done it. So that's what I mean. It's
yeah,
that's not necessarily at his level. He's just not there yet. He's still early in his career. Let's hold back on those.
right.
You know,
I get it. Man City are a machine, but they can be beaten like they have done 4 times in the league. We need to be like a Liverpool. And the way, I hate to say it, we have to do what we did last season, get a jump on them. I don't think you can beat City by chasing them too much. You know what I mean? You have to get a jump on them. You have to maintain that gap. Arteta,
if you don't like you said, the way the season went, anytime City was involved, we had hiccups. And if we didn't even look at the next game, we didn't look at the game after next, and we just looked at the next game, we'd probably be okay. You know what I mean? The mentality has to be, we just got to win the next game, and then the next one, and then the next one, and that's how. If you recall, that's how I started this season. I mean, I was just saying, let's just win the next one. I don't care about what happens tomorrow.
Yes.
And then it got to the point where we have City coming up.
We
in a
took
month,
that mentality,
right?
Indeed. Yeah,
but we
I agree with you
because we had stretches of games where back to back, we dropped points and we didn't look the same, right? So you might have said we didn't, but we did in stretches of the season, and that's, you know, basically after about the halfway point, we kind of started to lose our way.
Great having everybody in here. Great having this discussion. We're not talking about the game per se too much yesterday because it wasn't noteworthy. I thought do you think the referee was a little bit caught up in that game?
I think it's going to look bad because of the way we played. I mean, if we played better, it wouldn't have mattered as much. But the fact that we played so poorly, for me, we're never going to get. We should never be depending on our official to get it right. We should just be going out and doing our thing.
Gunnar Glenn is here. Welcome, Gunnar Glenn. Doesn't watch press conferences. Yeah, I mean, Arteta doesn't give anything away, which is good and bad. He can't give away anything away as he'd expose himself. I just think some managers prefer talking and some don't. You know, we've handed the title to Man City on a silver platter. Yeah, never want to do that.
You think about how the season went. Like, did we really get to enjoy St. Tottenham's Day? No. Did we really did we really? No, let me finish. Did we really get to enjoy, finishing top 4? Did we really get a joy to finish top 2? We in all those type of situations where we needed to respond, we didn't really respond, and it kind of soured those achievements during the season. We can look back. Like I said, at the end of the season, I'm going to look back and say it was good. But right now, I'm hurting a little bit. Right, this didn't feel good. Right.
Yeah, listen, we're getting the feel up close and personal how Liverpool have been feeling the last few years. What was I going to say? Controversial statement. Saka has been terrible in title run-in, but not just him, but he was very noticeable. I have to agree with this. I mean, he's got 13 goals and 11 assists. He could have probably gotten a few more.
Yeah, but everybody could have. The problem is he was considered our star boy. They didn't call him that for no reason, and that's the thing. So he should get it, and he should learn from that, right? He should have enjoyed it and embrace that, but also then be disappointed. And I don't think he played the way he wanted to. I hope he's got a little bit more fire in there to kind of want to do better than what he did, right? So.
Even though Arsenal have the Champions League, they have terrible stats in the Champions League. In terms of the general history of it, we've not done really well. We got to a final once and didn't win it. So, but we've been consistent through Wenger years. My problem with Wenger was we never really pushed the boat out. Do you think that's fair, Stan? We never really pushed the boat out to get to a semi-final or a final in the Champions League under Arsene Wenger.
Yeah, but we couldn't sign the players the players and pay the top players the money that they would want because of the stadium move. The
Do you
stadium,
think we were?
the
We
stadium
were
was like
hamstrung.
200 million more than they expected it to be.
Right.
They had to sell players, and they were unable to shop at the same level to attract the players. You know, and the reason that they moved players on because they wouldn't been able to have renewed their contracts and paid them the money that the players were worth.
Yeah,
That's the
I
reason
agree.
why we weren't able to push the boat out, because Wenger's hands were tied. He was working and operating and shopping in a different store.
And these are the things that I didn't really know this till recently, and you just reminded me to it as well.
Yeah.
So you go through the seasons thinking we're not competing, but this is the real reason why, because of the stadium move.
He committed in order to get the bank finances. He had to commit for 5 years as the manager, and I think during that time, approaches were turned down from England to be the England manager. I think also Barcelona, Real Madrid, and PSG. So in order, he could have furthered his career, but he felt it was the right thing to do to sign for those 5 years to help in his view, to help the club to grow by moving to a bigger stadium.
Yeah, we can't underestimate the love Arsene Wenger had for Arsenal as well. And in some place, sometimes he sacrificed his professional career in what he could have achieved with other teams by staying with us. Henry Ray Baker is saying Arsenal will do a sixth again. I don't believe that. I think we're going to be here to stay. We're going to be fighting with Liverpool for sure, but we're not going to. I don't believe we're going to fade away outside.
It's not necessarily that we fade away. It's just that we're going to have to compete on all four fronts, and if we're talking about having a small squad, then you might see us drop. You might be better as a team, but everybody else is coming up too. So what the difference between sixth and third, for example, might be smaller than it is today. Might be coming down to the last games of the season, and you might be second, and the next you're dropping to fifth for some reason because it could be tight there. So I've said this before multiple times as well, that sometimes you get better, but you don't see the movement in the table that you expect because everybody else is catching up to you. And it's tougher, and we have to compete in all those other events. So we're going to have to stretch ourselves thin a little bit if we don't have the numbers, right? So that will affect our point total.
Yeah, Arsene said if we don't get the transfer window right this summer, it could go all wonky.
Yeah, and for me, that's the thing that that's why I can't be too upset if I see certain things. Like if we are challenging in cup matches and maybe getting it out of the group stages. That's for us. We're not there. We don't have a squad big enough to handle all of that, but we need to be able to show that we can do it. Right. And then we'll find out what holes we're missing once again to fix. And then every window we're fixing one of those broken windows that we have until at some point, no wind's coming into the house anymore. You know what I mean? So
a football club is like a house. Some things only last for so long and you've got to replace them after a while. So the Thursday night forum was thinking about Champions League, and we've been doing Thursday night forums. It's been about Europa League. Starting next season, we get to talk about Champions League. Yep. And that's a good thing on Thursday nights as well. Something I'm looking forward to as well. Craig said we could get PSG, Real Madrid, Galatasaray as a possible outcome. It's going to be a tricky group, whoever we get.
Yep. Yep.
Olive trees and dogs. I'm not really worried about all this, but it does supply a little bit of banter for rival fans. Never heard so much nonsense in a football club, but you want to enjoy coming to work as well.
Yeah.
He's
got to do things that he can back up. You know what I mean? Like, you put something out there, and if you're not 100% into it, then the players will know, and they'll just think you're full of it, right? If somebody comes up to you and says, "We're going to do this thing," you're like, "I don't know about it," but then they're like 100% into it, and then eventually maybe you see the light, then now okay, maybe there's something to what he's saying. You know what I mean? But if he's like doing it just for show and he's not 100% into it, you're gonna just be like, whatever, man. I don't know what you're talking about, and this makes no sense. And then you won't trust him, right? You won't trust what he's talking about. He actually believes.
I don't I don't know
Personally,
if I'm getting caught up. Go ahead, Stan.
personally, I think Mikel Arteta has messed up a little bit there because everybody knows that dogs and trees, that's a bad combination. I just got a vision of the dog cocking its leg
Get the
on the
leg up.
tree.
Yeah. Well, definitely excited about getting Champions League football back. It's got to be where we continually rubber stamp our top four. We got to be consistent in the league in order to do a few seasons of the Champions League. It's been 7 seasons since we've been back there. Hopefully you like get Champions League football. I think Man United and Newcastle have rubber stamped it as well, pretty much. And Liverpool are going to be in the Europa League. So we've won everything going over to you, Canterbury. I'm waiting. Okay. A little bit of banter between Riddy and
Also, as
Henry.
well, our transfer fee, they've always kind of said the amount that we get depends on, what we're in. If you're in the Europa League, you're not going to get as much as you would have been given if you finish in the Champions League. And we've done that now. So, the taps should be full on.
Yeah.
When it comes to
they have
cash.
to back up everything, or at least, the whole goal is to get in the Champions League, so we're in there. So now show us why we want to be in this thing. Show it and back up those, those goals of actually some action in terms of check writing, right? Because that's the only thing that makes that's the only way we're gonna know. If they write the checks, then we'll know that this whole thing actually is true. If not, we know it's just what it was before, just trying to make more money.
The assemble is following Tony's form guide here and the form table. It's City and Liverpool coming strong at the end of the season. Yeah. Liverpool left it too late. I have more chance of getting caught up than Liverpool has getting top 4. We'll be trying to find Arsenal down the table. Okay. Spencer's here. Good to see you back
Just
again.
jump to like 40 minutes ago or something. I don't know how far back you are, but it's all right if you missed it. But you get the ones that are more relevant to what we're talking about today, right now.
Any other parts to talk about? Any other things to throw out about Arsenal? I know I have more notes in here as well, so I'll go through.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about our forward situation.
Yeah.
Because I've been watching Jesus closely now this season, and I know that he was out for a while. But I mean, there's times when he's like defending. He's popping up and defending, and I'm like, who's that? And you see the number 9 on his back, and he seems to be everywhere except for where I really want him to be.
Yep.
His finishing doesn't seem as clinical as I would like either. So I see him getting into a lot of good opportunities as well, into some good opportunities and positions, but he doesn't seem to be making the most of his chances. His efficiency doesn't seem as good, and he spends a lot of time on the ground as well.
Now, I get what you're saying. Is it the eye test for you? Because in 24 games, I think it's 24 games he's played, he's got 15 goals and assists.
Yeah,
10 goals and 5 assists.
It is the eye test for me.
Right. If he played another 12, 14 games, you'd think he would have gotten 20 goals? Possibly, right? Not 20 goals.
But if we're going to compare the amount of games that he's played to what City players are playing and what numbers they're presenting, then
I can't.
You know what I mean? Well, you brought it up earlier. So if we're saying like he got 25 games, then the numbers either are a little bit lower than we expect.
You brought it up,
but they're not any better. No, we brought it up earlier when we were talking about.
You mentioned Kevin De Bruyne, and not me.
No, players' minutes. I didn't bring that up. I didn't bring up players' minutes. But but so I don't agree. He needs to be playing as a center back, supporting the back line. But Arteta seems to be okay with it because we saw that from as well, right?
Would we be much more happy to push Gabriel Jesus out to a wing and cover for Bukayo Saka and get a prime striker who can score 15, 20 goals for us?
I think if we're going to be in all of those competitions, we need another striker because let's say 2 months into the season and one of Eddie or Gabriel goes down with a serious injury that's going to take him out for 2 to 3 months. then you're just left with one. And then we start having conversations about maybe we could move this player there. Maybe we could move. No, let's have another one. We need to have 3 strikers at the club. Remember, we've said this before. We sold Lacazette and Aubameyang, and we only bought one in. That's a short change. You know, we've been shortchanged there a little bit. I would like us to bring in somebody like Vlahovic. I'm not saying him, but somebody who looks like they're a bit more powerful, and they're going to be a little bit more, towards the tip of the attack.
Bit of a Drew.
And is more efficient with their finishing and their chances.
Yeah, like an Olivier Drew. People have said that, right?
It doesn't mean that Gabriel will never play in that position again. It will just mean that he will share that position with someone else, and maybe make up minutes by sharing with Saka as well.
In some respects, we need that Jota, right? We need that Mahrez player. That's what we need, and and we're not going to get maybe that quality, but we need better than what we have. We need better than what we have. We need a player that can definitely get us 10 goal contributions easy, right? Easy, not like we have to depend. Everything has to be perfect for them to get that, but we need more, and we need to bring up. We either need to raise the ceiling or definitely bring up the floor. One of the two, know, as we move along.
Yeah, Spencer makes a good point here. Maybe way behind as well. Maybe 20 minutes behind now. People can be short-sighted when it comes to sports. They think you can build a winner overnight, like in FIFA, but it's more complicated than that. All this stuff about being ahead of the curve, we're exceeding expectations, but when you get there, you have to expect to be in the fight with City. And maybe we're going to learn a lot from this season. Hopefully we do, and apply what we learned next season.
Yeah, and I was just looking at one of Spencer's. Why, if this is true, why does Arsenal have to have a contract that says, guess what, you're going to play this position? What? Oh, we trying to win. We're trying to win a trophy here. Can you play in a position? No, I know, but can you play in a position? Can you play in a position that gets me to win trophies? That's what, because we keep talking about. Well, we get into the Champions League, that gets us a certain type of player. Why do those players want to play in the Champions League? Just for the prestige of it, or maybe to try to win it as well?
Gabriel, Jesus, we're gonna ease you out to the right just for one or two games.
We're going to play you where we're gonna get to win. You're gonna be part of that. We see you as a vital part of our team. You're gonna start a lot of games for us, but you're gonna come off the bench for us as well. But what you're gonna do is get us to the top of the mountain. That's what you're gonna do. That's what we want you to do. Yeah. That we want that guy. Remember the guy that came off at halftime in the preseason game, and everything changed, and we went, that's what we want, right? Remember that? Do you remember that game? It was the opening game he played in. He came off the bench,
scored that goal,
came into halftime, and voila, things look different. That's what we want, and it doesn't matter if you start or if you come off the bench or where you play. But we want you. That's what we want.
But when you podcast with your mates, you know exactly what they're going to say. I knew exactly what you were saying, Gary.
That's the player that I wanted the entire season. Did we get it? No. One, because he was out injured, but even when he came back, he probably didn't have that same confidence that he had in the early part of the season when things were going well and he was feeling good. And that's what we're looking for. Like same thing with Zinchenko. When things were going good, we were good. But then when he started to fall off, we're like, oh, we're missing it, and nobody else was there to kind of pick up what he was, giving.
With Jesus, do you think it's a case of, he didn't want to re-sign a contract, right, with Manchester City? So Arsenal come in and sit down and talk to him, and the player's like, look, there's a reason why I don't want to stay at City. I see myself playing through the middle. We've got World Cup coming up. I want to be selected for Brazil. I want to play through the middle for Brazil. So wherever I go, the next team I go to, that's where I want to be playing. And Arsenal have gone, okay, well, we can accommodate you there. That shouldn't be a problem at all. Yeah. And maybe that's a conversation, how the style of a conversation goes. So now there's no leeway to move him out, because then the player starts to complain maybe.
The chicken man. I don't know. The chicken dance man.
Richarlison.
It's all I have to say about, well, Jesus, did it work? The chicken dance man seated you as a starting striker for Brazil. So and not only that, but you were on the team that was number one at the top of the table
It's quite funny.
when the World Cup break happened, and you
Quite funny.
still weren't considered a starter on that squad.
Tottenham wanted Jesus, couldn't get Jesus, went for Richarlison instead. Has he scored for them at all?
He
I
scored
don't
one
think-
time for them,
One.
but yeah, he's better than for Brazil. So
Right.
there's something there, either mentality wise or something there with the physical nature of the position that they're looking for that he doesn't possess, which is fine. Just be good at everything else that you do, right? Because I think he would give Brazil something, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they have answers all over the board, so that's the
Um,
problem. But it might have been easy to be a striker, but is he physical like a chicken man? Probably not the way they want him to
No.
be.
I got a shout out to Reddy, who mentioned the fans, the away fans. So, listen, we didn't get the result, but the Arsenal fans, so going away from home especially, have been outstanding this season. And we got to give them a shout out for it's not easy to go travel to the games, and they've made it. It's come through on the screen. We've heard you. You know what I mean?
I thought I saw something where the players didn't like clap them, give
Wow,
a clap to them after
understandable
the
for
game.
yesterday, right?
No, but I mean that's when you actually need it.
What about
You
Tottenham?
need it
then?
in those type of situations when you've had a really bad day. But
What about
guess what? We're
Tottenham then?
still here with you. Guess
So
what?
bad.
We're going to do better for you tomorrow. That's why it matters, especially when you have a bad day.
Mhm.
Not just when all things good, right? Because that's what we're looking to push each other up when things aren't so good, right? The players aren't playing well. The fan is screaming. You listen to that and you're like, oh, wait a second. I remember there are people here that have some
The
belief.
difference for me, the difference with Ramsdale cursing out Trossard for his mistake against Brighton really dug him out. But he gives Saliba a pat in the back early in the season, because
You pick your fights,
right
mate.
at the end of the season, it's completely different, right?
You pick your fights. He's looking at Sleeve and goes, I don't want any of that. And he's looking at Trossard and thinking, yeah, I could have him.
Slap him.
But look at Tottenham, right? They go in and they think, right, let's go out and get a little lap of appreciation. Our last home game. They come out, everyone's gone home. Everyone had gone home, man.
The stadium is empty. You see the dull gray stadium seats. Yeah, definitely pretty sad. I feel that Jesus' contract states that he plays as 9.
I think I don't think we're in a position where we can say you have to play in this position, especially if it hurts my team. It just makes no sense. I get it. I get why they do it, but it hurts your team because we know he can play other places, and we know, like, if for some reason the team says no, you have to play winger, and we went out there and we did what we wanted to do, we won the trophy. Would he look back and go, well, I didn't do it my way, so that's poor. That's not good. I don't think so. You know what I mean? I think
Well,
you have to
he won the
be able
last
to.
season of City and then didn't want to resign with him again, did he? You're like, okay.
I know, I get that, but I mean, like I said, that's where Arsenal has to decide what it is they're trying to do. Are they trying to actually get better in the league, or are they just trying to compensate for what players want, which doesn't help them?
Mhm.
Makes no sense, right? Why would you bring a player and it doesn't help you when you need
I
it to
think,
help you?
as Spencer has said here, sometimes you're not in a position to make demands of players because of where you were at the time. I feel like Kieran Tierney, I've heard, has a sell-on clause now because we didn't get the best deal for him. So Celtic going to profit if Kieran Tierney moves on. And here, Spencer says it's players' demands. We were not in the Champions League at the time. We may have been the only club offering him a striking position. But also he was coming to a manager he knew and players that he knew as well. So when you're going somewhere new, you have to go, you're more likely to go to familiar surroundings or somewhere you're going to settle in and be a part of as well.
Like I said, did it help us not being able to use him as a winger? And I believe we're all saying it did hurt us.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So if you're gonna why would you bring something in and sign some contract that hurts your team eventually?
I mean, we don't know if this to be true. I think Jesus can
No,
be
no,
asked to play
that's
the
true.
right
But like,
wing.
either you played him out, not necessarily out of position, but you played him in positions that you didn't get the best out of the player and the best out of the situation,
Yeah.
or you were forced to, and in which case you just sign your death certificate kind of to some degree, because because then we always taught then when we bring in players as fans, we always say they're versatile. And if the team doesn't look that way, then you're like, well, then why don't you buy the exact same player behind them, right? And we don't do that either sometimes. So it's a lot of,
I'm
not
not.
being disciplined
Hmm.
in the way
I
that you
also,
bring players into the squad.
I also think Arteta's given Jesus license, as in, when you hear the term that the player has a free role,
Hmm.
he literally does have a free role because he is everywhere on the
Yeah.
pitch. He turns up everywhere.
Yeah.
So that must be license from the manager. If you wouldn't be doing that if the manager didn't want you to,
Yeah.
or allow you to.
Did you see the Spuds actually doing an award ceremony yesterday after a game?
Award ceremony. What?
There was
What
they had it up on one of the screens. Season awards will be handed out, but
Everyone went home.
everybody went home. Henry, well, I got them players on my eFootball team, won everything, so why not? I'm catching up. We need a new striking option. So, like I said, I think we're going to need a striker, 2 midfielders, central defender, and a fullback. That's at least 5 positions.
Wide player. If Reece Nelson
As I
goes.
said, we need between 5 and 10 players, and
Yeah.
like I said, some of them we might have, and they didn't play much this season, but they need to be part of this squad. Like, like if Emil Smith Rowe comes back, then he has to play. If not, then he needs to go. And those are players that's why we had a finite number of players that we knew were going to play every game, and others that just because we were down to second and third options, that's why they came in and played. There needs to be everybody's vital to this thing. Everybody.
I mean,
has to be a part.
what's to become of Nicola Pepe? He's still an Arsenal player, right?
Yeah, no, that's just
Now,
there's a lot of money they got to spend to get rid of these players.
I look. That's interesting because one of the final points maybe to talk about is the players that did leave at the end of last season.
I don't want to re-sign any of those players.
I'm not saying, yeah.
No, looking at Ritzy's comment there.
Tony,
I don't want to have any part of that discussion.
We know Type A people feel they are never wrong. They probably thought Jesus would not be needed on the wing, but it would have helped. Yeah. Brain, I'll be right back. Need to go to the shops and grab me some snacks. Definitely. Arsenio. What is happening when Smith Rowe does? It's interesting. I don't believe Smith Rowe is going to get sold.
He's in the pictures. I've seen him in pictures for the marketing for next season's kit. Now I don't know if that means if you know you're getting rid of someone already, you probably wouldn't have them in those marketing pictures. Perhaps.
Yeah. Although I think Liam Brady left this summer, and there was similar type team photographs way back in the 80s. So
the marketing team at Arsenal knows what they're doing. So like even if he is leaving, it's more because of exactly. It's more for the marketing of it than it is it's a football decision behind it as well.
I feel like we've got so much surgery to do that Emil Smith Rowe, when fit, there's a big asterisk there, right? When fit, he can do a job for us, and I think, but he may be used to generate funds as well. Last season, Lacazette left. Tavares went out on loan. Pablo Mori went on loan. Cedric has been moved on. Sambi Lokonga is on loan, and Kolasinac went out as well. So these are the kind of players that need to move on, and we probably know the players within our own squad that need to move on. They're talking about Rob Holding. There's a couple of other things that been doing there. Ray trying to put up my Welsh holiday destination this summer. Yeah, I'll change that one now. But that just shows where we are and the tail off. 3 draws, a loss, 2 wins, 2 losses, and we probably will win on Sunday. Next Sunday against Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Henry Ray Baker says this wasn't a good day for us today. Leeds let a 1-goal lead win, so Mr. Tom's not happy. And the women had a chance to get back into a game and missed a penalty, and that kind of sealed their fate.
Listen,
today.
as bad as things can be as an Arsenal supporter, imagine feeling that your club could get relegated. It's got to be a horrible, horrible feeling, that you're going to drop into the nether regions of the league.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of teams out there. Coventry could come back up. Who else is there? Luton Town.
Luton.
I believe Luton Town is the team we do not want to come up because it's not a nice area.
It's a nice area.
So yeah, those are the situations. I'm not hugely triggered about the dog situation.
It's just, to me, it's just poor timing. It's almost like, why are we concerning ourselves with a dog at this point in the season? We're just trying to actually redeem ourselves from the last time we went out and played some football. It's just a visual thing for me that just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
The visual part of it just doesn't make any sense. We're trying to, who's signing a dog like in the last weeks of the season, talking about when you just got destroyed at home to Brighton. It is a business as well, but I mean the football aspect of it is like, I don't really have time for that crap. Can we just win some football games here, please?
Yeah. Anyone interested in a quick game of Kahoot?
I'm gonna have to go.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, so we will leave that one. We'll carry that one over until next time, okay? I generally don't like playing a game of Kahoot when we lose a game of football and we're not feeling it. You know what I mean? So, listen, Stan, thanks for joining us today. I don't think we have a lot more to talk about, and we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining, Stan, as always.
Thanks.
Always appreciate you. Gary, appreciate you being here as always, as well.
Yep, thank you for having me. It's good chatting with you, and Ray and Stan. Always good chatting with you.
We want to believe. There's all of us want to believe, but Mikel Arteta has to change his ways with a bigger, better squad next season. We can see it. Why can't he? Thanks for watching, everybody. We're out of here. We'll see you hopefully on the Thursday Night Forum. Take care of yourselves, and don't watch any of that Manchester City celebrations. Maybe that's us.